So one night there was a church meeting, and it was time to testify. And so a man stood up and he said, I am a millionaire, and I attribute it all to God's blessings in my life. And I want to tell you about the moment that I developed my faith and the moment my blessings started happening. This was years and years ago. I had just gotten a job. I hadn't had a job in a long time, and I just got a job, and I had earned my first $1. And I went to church, and I had that $1 and only that $1 to my name in my wallet. And I went to church, and I heard a missionary speak about his work in the world. And it was so moving and so beautiful, and I loved hearing of what he was doing. And at the end, he was asking for people to support his work and to support his ministry, to support his missionary work. And the man said, and I thought about, I have $1. That's all I have to my name. I either have to give everything to God, I have, or nothing. Which is it going to be? Everything or nothing? And he said, I made the decision in that moment to give everything I have to God. And I gave my dollar bill. And that was the beginning of my amazing life, where I am now so prosperous and blessed. With that, he went back to his chair. And there was just this silence in the room, just this hush, this awed silence, not O-D-D, but A-W-E-D, awed, silence in awe. Except for one little old lady who, as the man sat down, she leans over to him and says, I dare you to do that again. Thank you. Even with your help, they still didn't guffaw like I thought that joke would get. All right. But I do want you to remember it, because it's the perfect way to begin our last Sunday talking about the dynamic laws of prosperity, the great book by prosperity guru Catherine Ponder. And we will circle back to that story a little bit later, so just remember, keep in mind the crux of that story. But today we do finish up our work looking at this, what I like to call the prosperity Bible. It really is a prosperity Bible of principles and ways of being and ways of thinking and feeling and what to release and what to bring into your consciousness to live a prosperous life. Now, we have, in the process of this month, defined prosperity, defined a prosperous life. And each week we've kind of expanded it a bit, and I'm going to expand it a bit more today. So you probably won't be able to write all of this down. And I had somebody after first service go, could you go over those again? Because I want to get them again. So I will tell them to you again if you want. But here they are. And if you don't get them all written down and don't get to me, then listen to this after service. We, iPod it and live. There's all sorts of ways that you can get to this talk. So here they are. A prosperous life is a life in which we experience the health, the wealth, and the wonder of God. The health, the wealth, and the wonder of God. It is a life in which we experience the joy, the juiciness, and the jubilance of God. It is a life where the love, the luxury, and the lavishness of God is expressed in and through what we are doing and being and how we are living. It is a life in which we have the peace, the plenty, and the power of God living through us and back to us. It is a life where the order, the opulence, and the OMG, that's fantasticness of God lives. Clearly, I was having trouble finding another O word, so I kind of like OMG, that's fantastic. I like that. It is the life in which the beauty, the bounty, and the boldness of God is expressed. And finally, at least in my list, it is a life where the radiance, the richness, and the regality of God is expressed in and through our experience on a regular basis. So does that pretty much cover it? Does that cover a prosperous life? Yeah? And would it be okay if your life had all that stuff in it? Would that be all right with you? Well, good. Because today we're going to wrap this month up and this book up by talking about two superpowers. Prosperity superpowers that you have already. You may not know it, though. But when you use them, you will move yourself into creating the life that I just described. So they may not be the lasso of truth that Wonder Woman uses, or it may not be the boomerang shield that Captain America uses, but nonetheless, they're superpowers. And we're going to jump right in. I've got 2 of them to share with you today. So the first superpower that absolutely supports this prosperous life is your divine intuition. Your divine intuition is your first superpower. I love these words of Catherine Ponder from the Dynamic Laws book at page 276. She writes, "People whom the world considers to be of genius caliber are those who have had the courage and confidence to listen to, follow the inner guidance of their intuition. As they follow their inner leadings, the results are usually so wonderful that others believe they have unusual gifts. They do not really possess unusual powers. They are simply actively using their intuition, rather than stifling this mind power as most of us are inclined to do. We too can stimulate our intuition as a genius power. I will shift that and just say as a superpower for prosperity, success, and more satisfying living." So you've probably heard the term, the still small voice, used in connection with our intuition, right? The still small voice. Well, where did that come from? You may know where that came from. You may not know. If you don't know, you're going to know now. It's scriptural. It appears in 1 Kings chapter 19 when Elijah is in a cave and he is desperately seeking guidance. He needs some guidance on his life. And so the scripture says that the winds, strong winds came, so strong that they blew rocks off the mountain. And Elijah listened to the wind, but he did not hear God's voice in the wind. And then the earthquake came. Sounds like our world right now, doesn't it? And the earthquake came, and he listened for God's voice in the earthquake, but he didn't hear it there either. And then a fire came, and he listened, but he didn't hear it. And then the wind stopped, and the earthquake stopped, and the fire stopped. And the scripture says, and he heard a still small voice. And it says he put on his mantle and he walked out to the mouth of the cave because he knew that that still small voice was the voice of God. So the voice of God, the still small voice, is your superpower. The voice of God in you, which is your intuition, is your superpower. So I love making things into affirmative statements, so we're going to do that right now, and it is, the voice of God is my superpower. Okay, we got it? The voice of God is my superpower. Say it again. The voice of God is my superpower. And that is the truth. It is your superpower. So Catherine Ponder, in this great little book, gives, she says, 5 simple steps for unfolding your intuition. And I originally wanted to share all 5 of them with you, but then I also have 3 little things I want to throw in there, and then I got a second superpower, and I just decided we'd be here till 1 o'clock if I tried to give you all 5 of them. So I'm going to give you 3, kind of the 3 that bubbled up for me. And if you want to read the rest of them, well, then I would suggest you just get this book and read it and read the whole thing. These are not deep concepts. They are not things that need lots of explanation or understanding or illustration. So I'm just going to kind of go through them fast because I want more of you to be thinking about where am I with this? And you'll get what this is because they're quite simple. But just think about where are you with these as it relates to listening, cultivating, and then listening to your superpower that is the God still small voice within you, otherwise known as your intuition. So Ponder's first idea in this, and she calls it her step 1 for honing your intuition, is to realize that intuition does not explain, it does not reason, it's not logical necessarily, and it certainly isn't always rational, but it always points you toward your good. Right? That's the concept. There it is. It's so juicy, I'm going to say it again. But then that's it, and we're going to go on to step 2. I'm going to make sure you get it. So, intuition, or that still small voice of God, your superpower of intuition, does not explain, it does not reason, it may seem illogical, and it may seem irrational, but it will always lead you to your greater good. You got that? Yes? You've probably had an experience of that, haven't you? I bet every one of you can think about a time right now where it didn't make any sense. It was this thing that you got in your head was odd. It was weird. There was no reason behind it. Well, why should I do that? There was no reason. It just, you knew that was yours too. Yes? Can I get an amen on that? Thank you. All right, good. That lets me know we can go to the second one. Second idea for unfolding your superpower is that as you go about your life, act as if you actually already have it. That you already are divinely guided all the time and that you have this superpower of intuition activated all the time. Ernest Holmes, I have to get one Ernest Holmes quote in here today, in the textbook at 323. You're welcome. Says, the infinite is in and through us and is in and through everything. Act as though I am and I will be. So now, that act as though I am and I will be. That is God speaking to us. Now, God always is. So the I will be is a little confusing in that, well, God always is. We don't have to act anyway for God to be present and available. But for us to get it, for us to connect with it, this is what it's saying. So act as if I am, and then to you, in your experience, I will be. That's what that means. So, but there's a second little piece of this. So act as if you believe divine intuition is working in your life as your superpower, and that it is standing on the ready. It is waiting just for you to ask, for you to act as if, for you to invite it in. It's just like, come on, let's go. What was that old commercial? Open, open, open. Was that Mervyn's? Mervyn's? Remember they would stand at the door in the early, open, open, open. Well, that's like spirits going, open, open, open. Come on, let's go. Just open yourself up. You're never going to think about that commercial the same way, are you? That is source, infinite wisdom, divine intelligence. It's just there at you going, come on, let's go, let's go. We had a conversation about this in our foundations class, similar to this in foundations last Wednesday night, about spirits just ready, waiting for you. And I told the story of Edwene Gaines that I want to share with you this morning. Edwene's a beautiful prosperity teacher, spiritual teacher. And before she had evolved to the point she is today, when she still had a little bit of separateness going on and maybe what is God's will for me and kind of stuff going on, she tells the story of looking up to the heavens and saying, God, God. And because she needed clarity, she didn't know what direction to take or what to do. She said, God, God, I'm your lady. I'm your lady. Just tell me what to do. I'm your lady. And she said she got this voice coming down on her going, Edwene, Edwene, I'm your God. Just tell me what you want me to do. I love that. It's like Spirit is kind of doing that with us from the inside, going, come on, let me out. I'm here. I'm here. Just recognize that I'm here. So step 2 for unfolding the superpower is to recognize and act as if it is already there and that it is waiting, just waiting with enthusiasm and delight to offer you whatever guidance and direction you might possibly need. So those first 2 really set us up for the third one, which is the big one, and the last one I'm going to speak of. They're kind of like, when Superman went into the phone booth, okay, dating myself, I know, went into a phone booth to change clothes and become Superman, when Clark Kent went into the phone booth and changed clothes and then he came out Superman. These first 2 ideas are like your phone booth. You go in there, do those 2 things, and you come out with this superpower. I wonder I would love to have been in the conversation that the writers of the new Superman had of like, how do we handle the fact that there aren't any phone booths anymore? How do we do that as we make a new Superman movie? I don't know what we do. So that would have been an interesting conversation to find out how they figured out how to make that shift. But nonetheless, you could look at these first 2 ideas as your phone booth. You go in to those 2 things, and then it takes you to the third one, which is that superpower is now here, and it's starting to talk to you. And you're starting to get hunches and thoughts and ideas. Go this way. Make that call. Check on that. Head over here. Turn right here. Why? I don't know. So now is my threefold guaranteed plan for honing your intuition as well as discerning whether or not it was really your intuition that gave you this guidance, or, that ego, or, maybe you just wanted to have power over somebody else or get back at somebody, and so you were guided to say something. Yeah, right. I just want you to know, Spirit will never guide you to be nasty and mean. I just want you to know that. That is not your intuition. But sometimes we don't know until after the fact. So here is my 3-prong approach for honing this intuition. Goes right along with Catherine Ponder's third one, which is start to listen. But here it is, my 3-prong. Listen. That is number 1. Listen to those hunches, to that still small voice. Listen to it. You have to be open enough to listen to it so you hear it. Don't be going so fast and furious on such automatic pilot that you don't hear it. So this is where your life of spiritual practice and openness and listening and prayer will really come in handy, because you've cultivated a listening. So you listen, number 1. Number 2, you getting this now? This is important stuff. Okay. You follow or you don't follow. Your choice. You're always at choice. You either follow or you don't follow. You decide. And then, after you follow or you don't follow, observe the results and see how it went. And you will learn, if you do that little 3-step process very much, you will very quickly see when it was intuition and when it wasn't, and how the first thing I said, that your intuition is always directing you to your good, is absolutely true. So listen, follow or don't, observe the results. Tell me again, what are they? Good. This is how we absolutely hone and develop the superpower that you already have. It's already there, but you need to connect with it in order to live it and experience it and benefit from it and have it be a support for you in living this beautiful, prosperous life. So let's go to our second superpower. Our second superpower is an ancient power. It is, again, a power that you have, but one that you must do 2 things to have the benefit of it. One of them is a recognition, and the second one is an action. Now, you might start wondering, because I have not yet talked about the major theme that is in many of Catherine Ponder's books. We have not yet talked about that, and guess what? Now we're going to. Yay! So here it comes. The recognition, to hone this superpower, requires a recognition, and that recognition is that God is the source and substance of your supply. Let me put another word in there. God is the only source and substance of your supply. Let's make that an affirmation. God is the only source and substance of my supply. Again, God is the only source and substance of my supply. Other things are channels. Our work, our savings, our Social Security, our whatever it might be, they are channels from the one source. Channels change. One channel dries up, another one opens. We get all freaked out when one dries up. Okay, you don't have to answer that question. But how many of us at some point in our life have gotten all freaked out when one channel dries up? But the channel is not, okay, thank you for raising your hands back there. The channel is not your source. The source cannot dry up. The source is infinite supply. That is so important to know. That's the concept behind the superpower. Get this concept. The source cannot dry up. The channels can, and I promise you, will change. They will change. So don't get too attached to them. But when one channel closes, another one absolutely will open if you remember that God is your source. And one way to do that, to put it into practice, to put it into action, that's the second step. There is an action that is required of us, and it is scriptural as well. We are told in the Bible about this. Let me read Ponder, who says, systematic giving opens the way to systematic receiving. However, that giving must be done in a certain way, through consistent sharing of your tithe with God's work and workers at the point or points where you are receiving spiritual help and support. The word tithe means tenth, And the ancient people felt that 10 was the magic number of increase. Scripturally, Jacob in the Old Testament, in Genesis, he was having a rough time. Things were not going well in his life at all. He was fighting with his family. His prosperity was shot. He didn't have any flow going on. He was not being guided. Things were shut down in all areas of his life. And so he came to God and cut a deal. He cut a deal with God. Okay, Scripture says he made a covenant, but basically, same thing. He cut a deal. And here's what he said. He said, if you will return prosperity and flow, if you will give me guidance and peace of mind, and if you will help me reconcile with my family, and I quote Genesis 20, chapter 28, verse 22, if you will do all of that for me, all that thou shalt give me, I will give the 10th to thee. There it is. Of all that you do for me, I shall give thee a 10th. And guess what? God said, big fella, you got yourself a deal. Maybe didn't quite say it like that. But he honored that covenant that Jacob made with him. And Ponder says, it is little wonder that Jacob became one of the Bible's earliest millionaires. Those who tithe, taking God as their financial partner, today realize that this holy alliance will help them to prosper in just and orderly ways, just as it did Jacob. So here's the good news. Remember I said, remember the story that I told you at the very beginning of service, where the little old lady said, hey, try to do that again, meaning give everything to God? This is not everything. This is just 10%, a meager 10% of the 100% that is really God's anyway, because it's all from source. So we get to keep 90%. I mean, what a deal is that? I just think that's an amazing deal. Those are great odds, if you ask me. I love that. And here's what I know. Through my own experience and talking to a lot of other people about this concept, which can put us on, as I love the phrase, our green growing edge. This can push us. This idea can push us, for sure. But this is what I know. That when we take 10% off the top to support God's work and workers, we never feel it. If we wait to take 10% off the bottom, we'll never do it. You know why we'll never do it? Because we won't have it. That is how it works. You take 10% off the top, you won't feel it. You wait to take 10% off the bottom after everything else is paid, you won't have it. You won't do it because you won't have it. An interesting concept? Absolutely, it's true. So I want to support you in playing if you want to play. This isn't a have to play, this is a want to play. If you want to play in either deepening your commitment to tithing, or maybe you have tried it before but have kind of fallen off the wagon and you got scared and you want to start again, or you've never done it before, but the still small voice in you right now is saying, wow, I would like to explore this possibility. I have a 90-day tithing challenge offer to you. There is a form in the pew pocket in front of you. If you want to play, fill it out, turn it in. There are baskets. There's a basket at the back of the room. There's a basket in the bookstore, and there's a basket in the foyer. You can place your card in, and you will be supported for the next 90 days, which, by the way, happen to run us through Christmas Eve, which I think is kind of cool, 90 days to Christmas Eve. And you'll be supported by me in this endeavor, and let's come play in this energy and see what happens. So that's an invitation to you that I make this morning if you really want to develop and hone this superpower. So now I want to tell you very quickly about something really important that we are going to do today. Really important that we are going to do today. And I want to start it with a quote from Khalil Gibran in The Prophet. He said, "It is good to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked through understanding." So I have been in prayer and contemplation around everything that's happening in our world right now, environmentally, with hurricanes and earthquakes, and not just in the U.S., but across the Caribbean and Mexico. And there are places in our world right now that have been demolished and completely leveled. And that weighs heavy on my heart. And I'm so happy that we participated in the Help for Houston, and thank all of you who participated in that. And we sent a lot of stuff. It went on a truck on Friday off to Houston. We combined with several different churches, New Vision and Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, and great, thank you for that. But there was more for us to do. And so at our board meeting last Sunday afternoon, we made a prayerful decision. And that prayerful decision is going to get implemented here today. And this is what we're going to do. In a few minutes, when we take our offering, I want you to give more than you've ever given before. Because our entire offering today, all of it, not 10% of it, all 100% is going to go to an organization called globalgiving.org. And globalgiving.org supports worldwide areas that are in need of help. The Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Florida, all over they support. And they're right now supporting hurricane victims. I don't like that word victims, but those who have been experienced that. So this morning I invite you to be a part of God's love by giving more than you've given before, and know that all of it is going to go to support. And what we stand in the knowing, firmly in the knowing, that we as a community are absolutely 100% supported by Source and by Spirit, and that we will not even miss today's offering because we are supported by Source. So as we bring our time to a close, we're going to do one more thing here. This book that I decided to use, Catherine Ponder's book, was because one of our beautiful spiritual life coaches told me in early August, that she had gotten the book and amazing things that had happened, and she was starting to tell me about it, and she inspired me to use this book as our monthly book theme. And I invited her to share her experience with Catherine Ponder's book. And so, Tara, come on up and share with us your experience with the dynamic laws of prosperity. Give her a hand.
Hello, everyone. So I'd heard of Catherine Ponder for a long time, but I'd never read her work. And it was late July, and I'm just going after service, and I look at the little used book cart. PSA, go to the little used book cart. And I find this book there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pick it up. $6, I can do that. And so I pick it up, and then I take it to a vacation with my kids. We were at camp, and I started reading it. And this is 420-something pages long. And over the course of that week, I read the bulk of the book. And I was like, wow. It didn't tell me anything I'd never heard over 9 years of being at CLF, but it said it a little differently. And it went in a little differently. And so over the course of reading it, I came across a specific, just 2 pages. Pages 290 to 291, and it's a section called Creative Imagination Can Dissolve Unhappy Memories. And that was the one tool I started to implement. So it was a family camp that my girls and I were at, and there are all these families together, and it kind of brings up a little angst and a little ouch and a little constriction of the life that I had left behind. I'm no longer married to their dad, and there's still some stuff to work through around that. And so I started using this tool to repattern that memory. And it was great. And so that was early August, and I came back, and I've got a side business, and I work full time. And 2 weeks later, from 4 different sources, $10,000 came into my life. Yeah. And I didn't do anything that I wasn't already doing. But my financial picture is like, okay, that got my attention. And so my book is getting kind of tattered from being carried in my purse a lot and getting read a lot because I am in love with Catherine Ponder. And so my invitation to you is to just play with it. If you have the book, read it. It may not be that every section is your section, but you might find that there's a constriction here or a tightness there. And what we know for sure is, right, there's the hose is perfect. It's that we put the kink in it, and this helped me get the kink out. And so Catherine Ponder's my new best friend. So thank you, everyone, and blessings to you all.
So let's just take a moment now to close our eyes, and thank you, Tara, so much for that. close our eyes, take a deep breath, because I want to invite you into a little moment of exploration. We talked this morning about divine intuition, the still small voice. I want to give you a little bit of space this morning to listen to that still small voice. Is there something in you, or has there been something on your mind where you are in the question? There's something not clear. And you haven't really yet allowed yourself or invited in the still small voice. You haven't yet activated your superpower of intuition to support you in knowing the answer, in knowing the direction, in getting the step to take and the guidance for that. So that's what we're going to do right now. Take another deep breath, and in your body, find the place where you would say the divine lives. We know the divine lives in, through, and as us completely and fully, and there's a center point. Maybe that's what I'll say. It's, where is the center point of the divine in you? And there's no right or wrong place. It is simply, where is it for you? And take a moment to connect with that point. Because it is from that point that any answer lives. That answer lives there even before you ask the question. So in this moment, is there a question to be asked? Is there something about your direction in career, about a relationship? Is there a question about your financial life? Have I piqued your interest this morning with this 90-day tithing challenge? Is there a question about that, or you want to know if that's the right thing for you to do? How much money should I give this morning to support globalgiving.org? I'm going to be quiet for just a few moments to invite you in to ask a question. And knowing that you have this superpower, allow it to come forth for you and through you and into your conscious awareness. And so giving thanks for that divine guidance, whether it came in this moment or it comes tomorrow, this afternoon, we just know that it is there and it arrives in the right and perfect time, so we give thanks for it. We give deep and abiding thanks for it. Gratitude that it is already done. And in that gratitude that it is already done, I release this prayer. I let it go. I let it be. I know that it is so. And as we anchor this prayer in, and so it is in just a moment, this prayer is going to be followed by an extraordinarily sacred and beautiful song. And I invite us to hold that space after the song is over. Not break it with applause, but simply let it fill us. And we will let it be our, and so it is.
Loving Spirit dwells in me. This is my divinity. As within, so without. All. all I need is here and now. I have no fear. All the power, all the glory, I surrender. Let it be. Loving Spirit dwells in me, now and evermore. Now and